All right, so this is multiplayer Pong game. You do have to have created the first Pong game first, because what we're going to do is we're going to open up the Pong game and edit it to make it multiplayer. All right, I do also have, and we'll reference this in a second. This is some notes I make always when I make a game. Like I'll make notes of what I need to do, just so I can keep on track. So in this case, it's going to be two players. One is going to move the arrow keys, and one is going to move with A and D. So you could sit on the keyboard, two different people, kind of spaced out. And one of them is going to be on the top, and one's going to be on the bottom. So instead of Pong, Pong normally has on the left and right. You can do that if you want, but I just put one on the top, one on the bottom. The game ends when someone misses. I'm going to remove the score variable because it doesn't make sense for this kind of game in this case. We're going to duplicate the line object on the top and the bottom. We're going to change the speed of the ball increases when a player hits. So that'll increase the speed of the ball increases when hit by a player. So that will make it faster and faster as we go, so the game will get harder. The ball starts in the middle of the screen, picks a random direction. I put the directions that we're going to put in here. And then this is just more of coding notes. If the player on the bottom, its deflection needs to be from -70 to 7 on the direction. And then the top player is 110 to 250. And that's just numbers I worked out previously. So, all right, let's go to Scratch. We're going to go up, make sure you're logged in. You're going to go here. If you've already created it, it should be in My Stuff. We're going to go into the Pong game here. This is my single player Pong game. We're going to hit C inside. So here we go. We got a little Pong game, right? Controlled by the mouse. Okay, we got a little Pong game. Cool. So that was that first one we made. We're going to change a lot just to make it work. The first thing we probably want to do is change this paddle here. Because you can't have two mouses on the screen, and the person who has the mouse is going to be a hell lot better. So we're going to change this paddle down here to left and right movement. So instead of doing the set X to the mouse coordinate, we're going to do two if statements. We've done this before. Done this before. I put that in the forever loop, right? And then we're going to do sensing, left key, right key, left, right. And then we can just, to get rid of script, you can just go and drop it here and it deletes it. And then we're just going to change the X, right? Not set, change X by. So on the right, we want to change X by 10 is fine. We can adjust these too if you want to change the speed by negative for the left. So let's see what that looks like. So I now have the ball is probably moving way too fast too. But so there we go. We got a little thing. If you want to make them go faster, you can. One thing you will notice is like you can move this paddle way off the side of the screen there. So if you want to stop that, all you really have to do is use if on edge bounce inside this forever loop. And now I can't go past that screen. And the same thing on the other edge. Okay, so you can't go past it. So might want to add that on edge bounce. All right, so we got that paddle working. It's pretty good. We'll duplicate the paddle in a second. This ball is moving too fast. We need to edit some of this ball code as well. So let's do that. And the ball. What I first want to do is if we look back at this little thing, I want to remove the score variable. That's one thing we want to do. So we're just going to take these apart. Take this score apart, put that back in there like that. There you go. Okay. The next thing we want to do is actually make it, instead of, you see the green, it starts at the top every time. I want to start it in the middle because there's going to be a player up here. It's fair if it starts in the middle. So we'll just do 0, 0. I also don't like how it just turns 15 degrees every time you restart the game. What I want to do is I want to, if I think I put it in here, duplicate ball, middle of the screen, and picks a random direction. So it's going to pick a random direction. So we're going to go to, where is it? Direction. We're going to, where is it? Set direction. Where is it? Point in direction. There we go. Point in direction. And then we're going to make it, instead of just a direction like that, we're just going to pick some random direction. And to do that, we go to operators, pick random. And if you're, remember in geometry or algebra, a circle is 360 degrees. So it's 1 to 360. We'll pick, since your direction is a circle, right? It'll be from 1 to 360. So I'll pick some random direction, 1 to 360 degrees. Cool. So now when I start, you'll see that it picks a random direction. A little more fair if you have two players. It's also moving way too fast. So what we want to do probably is set this speed to much lower. But before we do that, let's actually make a variable called speed. Because one of our conditions here that I wanted to do was speed of ball increases. So to do that, we need to have some variable that we can change as the game's played. So we're going to make a variable. We're going to call this speed, or you call it ball speed, whatever. We're going to uncheck score here because we don't need to see that. We're going to keep speed up here for a second so we can see it. You can show and hide variables like this. We're going to hide this in a second, but I want to verify that we're actually changing speed. So we're going to do set at the very beginning of the game. Go to 0, 0, set my speed to something pretty low, like 5. We were going 15, so 5 is pretty slow. And then instead of moving 15 steps, we're going to move speed steps. And same thing here, we're going to do move speed steps, like that. So now, much slower, right? Much slower. Okay. At the beginning of the game, it's going to be really easy. What we want to do is slowly change this speed variable every time, probably every time we hit the paddles, one of the paddles. We haven't made the other paddle. Every time we hit a paddle, increase the speed. We can do that by just doing change. We can put it anywhere here. We'll change speed by like 0.5. Okay, so let's see if that's actually changing the speed. Our speed's 5. As we touch the paddle, it's 5.5. Good. That's 6. All right, so we're verifying that it speeds up. All right, so the other thing I want to do is, I don't really like this as well. Okay, this should just pick when it hits, it should pick a rotation here, a random degree here in a certain range, instead of doing this weird turn thing. I don't really like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify that. All right, so for the random direction, we're going to do another point in direction. And then we're going to use the numbers that I figured out here. So for the bottom paddle, we're going to do -70 to 70. So it's going to pick a random variable from -70 to 70. So let me do that. Go here, point in direction, -70 to 70. That should be a random direction. Let's see if that works. It should still work. Got a pretty slow ball. You might want to speed up the initial ball speed too. But there you go. Just you can mess around with these numbers, but it has to do with the direction here. So if we clicked on direction, it's from -70. So if you look down here, that's the number of -70 to 70. So it'll pick anywhere from here to here, right? So we'll pick a random direction. All right, so what we need to do now is go to line, duplicate this line, bring one of the lines up to the top, doesn't matter which, close as you can. Now, the one thing we do need to change in line is this go to. Just make this, instead of a negative, make it a positive 178. So it'll automatically go to the top. So now if it hits the top, let's see if I can get the ball going to the top, it will also end the game. So the game stops. So now we need to have a paddle, duplicate the paddle as well. Right click, duplicate, paddle 2. We just keep it named paddle 2, that's fine. We can move these paddles maybe even a little closer to give the player a little bit more time. So paddle 2. All we got to do here is just change left and right, because right now left and right controls both of them at the same time. I guess would work for like a single player game, but we're going to change the paddle 2s to A for the left. For the right arrow, it's going to be D. Okay. All right, so we can start. You'll notice, though, that the top paddle does not do collision yet. Okay. The ball just goes right through it. So to change that, we got to go back to the ball. The only collision that we're doing right now is doing the touching paddle. What we need to do is if touching paddle 2. So we can right-click this whole if statement, duplicate. Almost everything is exactly the same except the direction. The direction has to be different. Because remember, if I do this, it'll just point up and it will bounce basically into the red bar there. So the directions I found out that work are 110 to 250. You can mess around with these if you want. Okay. And this, again, has to do with the unit circle and trigonometry and all that stuff. But that's all right. So let's hit play. Let's see if I can do 2-player Pong now. Oh, did it? Oh, also have to change touching paddle to touching paddle 2. There we go. All right, now let's start. See if 2 can work. You'll notice that it also is increasing speed by 0.5. You get faster and faster. Hard to control 2 things at once. All right. So there it goes, getting faster and faster. You might want to speed up this paddle speed. There. So that's pretty much it for that. I would go back to variables and hide speed, so we don't need to see speed anymore. So just as a recap, we've changed the ball to go from 0-0. We've got rid of all the things about a score. We don't need that anymore. I wonder if you can delete this. I don't even know if you can delete it. Right-click delete. So yeah, you can right-click delete it if you want. We can delete that one too. So we have speed. That's the only variable we have. We set the speed to some slow speed at the beginning. We point in direction, a random direction, and then we forever move speed. And if it's on the edge, bounce. Inside here, we have touching paddle 1. What happens is it bounces off the paddle. We move it away from the paddle. That's what that's doing. And then we change the speed by some factor here. If you want the game to be, you can make that a lower number or a higher number, whatever you want to do. And then if we're touching paddle 2, do the same thing, but bounce in a different direction. Move away from the paddle, and then change the speed by 0.5. The paddles here, all we changed was the left arrow, right arrow instead of the mouse key. And we put an if on edge bounce. Same thing here, but we use different keys for different player. The lines are basically the same. The only thing we really changed in the lines was this go to X, Y, which in all reality, you probably can just get rid of if you want and just keep them there forever. But that's up to you. And that's pretty much it.